Welcome back. We now have a working pistol, but the pistol is an automatic weapon. We can just hold the trigger down and it keeps firing on its own. But we want this to be semi-auto. Well, this is a relatively easy thing to fix. Let's go back into our weapon class here in weapon.h and create a private variable. It's going to be a boolean, and we're going to call this bool be automatic. Let's make this a U property. We'll make it edit anywhere. Blueprint read write. Category weapon properties, and it needs the meta specifier. For the comment, we'll just say true for auto gunfire. Now by default, we'll set this to true in the constructor. So set that to true, and let's take a look at how firing the gun works in shooterCharacter.cpp. Now we have a function called fireWeapon, and fireWeapon ultimately results in starting a fire timer. And that fire timer, if we peek that, will set a timer, and at the end of the timer we get auto fire reset called. So let's find auto fire reset. And auto fire reset will simply set the combat state back to unoccupied. Then we check to see if we have ammo, and if we do, we check to see if the fire button is still pressed. If it is, we fire the weapon. That means we can hold the fire button down and we'll keep firing the weapon. Well, now we have the case where we have semi-auto weapons, which is why we created this new boolean be automatic. Now this is a private variable, and we want to access it from here in autofire reset, so why don't we go ahead and make a public getter for be automatic. Let's go down to our public section. Let's say force inline bool get automatic const, and we'll return be automatic. Now here in shooterCharacter.cpp, we can simply check to see if equipped weapon get automatic. And that way, if the gun is not automatic, then we won't fire the weapon. So it's a pretty simple solution. Now I know we're accessing equipped weapon without checking it first, but let's look at where we're calling auto fire reset. If we search, we'll see that auto fire reset is being called at the end of the fire timer, and we check to see if equipped weapon is valid before we even start the fire timer. Now it's unlikely, but it is possible that equipped weapon could become null between the time when we start the auto fire timer and we finish it, so it wouldn't hurt to place a check in auto fire reset. So after we set our state to unoccupied, we could place an early out here by checking if equipped weapon is null and returning. That way we'll never actually try to access a null pointer. Now before we test this out, one important detail is that we need to make sure that this boolean be automatic is set to false for pistols. In fact, this would be useful to add to our data table so that we can just set this in the data table for each weapon type. So let's go to our data table up here at the top, and let's add a boolean to this. Let's call it bool be automatic. And just like the other variables, we'll make this edit anywhere blueprint read write. And in weapon.cpp, let's go to on construction. And where we're setting our variables, we can simply set be automatic equal to weapon data row be automatic. And now this will be set depending on the data table. Let's go ahead and compile this. All right, we're all compiled, and we're ready to set this Boolean, let's open our weapon data table. And we should be able to scroll down and find a automatic variable. It's a checkbox. And for submachine gun, I'm going to set this to true. For assault rifle, I'm going to set it to true. And for pistol, I'm going to leave it to false. I'm going to leave it unchecked. And I'll go ahead and save that. And now I'll just need to select the weapons to move them just so that we can kick off their onConstruction function, which will get that information from the data table. And let's go ahead and hit play and pick up a pistol. I'm going to equip it, and I'm going to fire and hold down the fire button, and I only get a single gunshot. Now I can click multiple times, and I get multiple shots. So we have a semi-automatic weapon. Let's go ahead and pick up this assault rifle, and we get auto fire, so that is perfect. Now, if you want to be able to fire this pistol faster, there's a couple of things you need to keep in mind. One is we're still using that auto fire rate. So if you want this to be a lower number, then you can set this to a lower number, like say 0.08. But if you set this to 0.08, there's a curve that we're referencing when we're blowing the slide back and we're rotating the gun in our hand. And that, if we go into our curves folder, is called the slide displacement curve. Now recall, this curve will start at 0 and it ends at 0.2 seconds. So if we have a shorter time, like 0.08, then the slide is going to blow back to about here and it will never get back to 0. So if we set that to 0.08, then we need this to be faster. It needs to go from 0 to 0.08, which means this middle part would need to be somewhere in between, like say 0.04. So if we want to do that, I'm just going to show you how. Let's click this middle part here, this middle key. Let's put it at 0.025, and this last curve point needs to be at 0.08. So now we have a very quick curve. Now if I hit save and go back and save the data table, now I can go ahead and click our pistol, move it, and then let's give this a test play. Now I can fire much more quickly. Looks like I ran out of ammo. I'm going to pick up some ammo. It's going to automatically reload for me, and I can fire. So yeah, it's personal preference how fast you want to be able to fire the pistol. I actually like a really rapid pistol refire, like this. This is actually pretty fun, and it's kind of a reward for the player. You know, if you can squeeze the trigger faster for a pistol, then you can shoot faster. And that adds to the appeal for using a semi-auto weapon, but that's just me. I've noticed in a lot of games I've played that you can fire the pistol very quickly, like this. So, you know, it's up to you. Just know that if you want to set that auto fire rate in the pistol here, you need to set this slide displacement curve to go all the way up to 1 and back to 0 in that time. It looks like it's only capable of 0.01 increments, which means that weapon data, this needs to go all the way back to 0 in that time. So I'm selecting this key and it's at 0.08, which is that same value for auto fire rate 0.08. Okay, so that is going to conclude this video. We now have semi-automatic fire for our pistol. Excellent. In the next video, we're going to work on having footstep sounds and having different footstep sounds depending on the type of treading surface. So see you then.